Mo Phillips, and I'm excited you're here to enjoy this conversation I had with Alonzo Chadwick of Zoulful Muzic. Alonzo is a ridiculous vocalist and can glide between soul and R&B and jazz and gospel, spending lots of time in that gospel zone. Maybe you've enjoyed some Alonzo Chadwick whilst singing with the Oregon Symphony on their annual Christmas Mayhem Spectacular. Alonzo has some awesome thoughts on how to make a state song for Oregon. And it's a really cool conversation that happened in the midst of a snowstorm. He had to come inside from playing with his kids in the snow, which was, I felt a little bad about, honestly. My kids are too old to play in the snow with their dad. They're like, whatever, dad. But his kids aren't. Anyways, thanks for hanging out. Enjoy this conversation. He's amazing. He's got great ideas on how to connect with the community. Let's do it. Alonzo Chadwick, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing great, man.
Nice to see you.
It's been a great season. Just enjoying the season I'm in life right now.
Awesome. Good to hear.
Yeah.
First things first, on the spot, can you please sing me the Oregon State song?
The Oregon State song? The Oregon State song? The Oregon State song? The Oregon State song? I cannot. I have no idea what that is.
No one knows, man. No one can sing it. It's fine. It's fine. It's all good. That's what we're finding out, is that people don't even know, which, then begs a lot of questions, and part of the reason that we're here. And I'm excited to have you because I want to talk about making songs and what that looks like, and working with communities to make songs and being a part of that scene. So let me ask you from the get-go, do you do some songwriting yourself? Or are you primarily choir stuff, or what do you got going on?
I have done some songwriting. Really, it's one of my passions, but I haven't done it in quite a while. Probably the most recent I've really done was I helped kind of co-write and co-arrange a song that's actually being performed right now with the Alvin Ailey Dancers for their 60th anniversary. Yeah, so they did a production called Lazarus that they
in New York.
Yeah.
Oh wow, nice, dude.
So really weird opportunity. I was on tour with another production. I don't know if you're familiar with Rennie Harris and Pure Movement, but he's kind of like the icon that has done house dance and kind of, the whole, house funk kind of dance movement.
Yeah.
Kind of made it a big famous thing.
Oh, cool.
Theaters. And so I'm a part of that production, was on tour with him.
Sweet.
And he was like, hey, I'm doing this special project. I really need some help with a song. And so we recorded it. I went, listened to the song, listened to the track, wrote to it. Didn't find out till later that it was for something he was choreographing for the Alvin Ailey Dancers. And so it's touring the world. So pretty cool and pretty exciting.
That's an awesome project. Right on.
Yeah. So it's really cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so as we're thinking about the Oregon State song, which nobody knows, and incidentally, you may or may not have heard that it's god awful, and the original is super racist and just ridiculous. So
not surprising.
Right. Not surprising. Oregon, do you? But we're trying to change Oregon, right? And so there's a lot of, we're going to have the Oregon State Song Contest and throw it out to people, but part of the process is like figuring out how would we do that. And you're somebody who's worked with choirs and worked with people, and you've made songs yourself. And so it's like, okay, well, how would Alonzo Chadwick approach making a song like this, like for a state? Where would you even begin? Do you have any ideas where you would start with something like that?
I probably would start by hearing everyone's voice and getting ideas and perspectives of everyone's different experiences. That's kind of where I would start personally. But again, I've gone through a lot of racial and diversity type training and equity training to really learn a lot about just how many different cultures and people have been impacted in this state, particularly.
Right.
So I would definitely probably take that approach before I just wrote something to make sure that I wrote something that was inclusive of everybody's experience and not just my own or what I thought.
Would you like gather stories and then try and work lyrics out of that, or would you gather lyrics, or like where would you? Are you someone that would start with lyrics, or would you start with melody and form? Like how? It sounds like you'd start with story and gathering people's information.
Yeah, that's kind of my approach. If I'm going to create something, I want to know first what am I creating about. Like I want to know what my what am I talking about, and there it's going to help me by knowing stories, which will help me to create the lyrics.
Totally.
And so I'm more of I create lyrics before I create melodies. That's kind of my style of songwriting. So that's probably the approach I would take.
Okay, cool. So then now let's say that you've just been given the task. Like, no, we're hiring Alonzo to write the song, and you are sitting down pen to paper, and you're like, okay, I gotta start cranking out things about Oregon. Where would you even begin? Any ideas? I mean, after you've gathered some stories, you've heard some voices. Like, what is? I mean, I guess this question kind of goes in hand with why a state songwriting? What's the point? What are we doing? Why would we make it? You know, how do we approach it? If it's like, it's a task because you've got all these different voices trying to make something that's representative of the state. So, where does one start working that song?
Yeah, that's a great question. Me, especially a task like that, I'm one. I tell everybody I'm one of those people, and I'm a believer in of the Christian faith. So I really believe in God, but there's a scripture that says that there is safety in the multitude of counsel. So I'm one of those people that I love to get different ideas, different input, different wisdom. And also, if I was going to do something like this, I probably would do a collaborative type. So I probably would bring in lots of different friends, or musicians and singers and songwriters, and I would probably do kind of a whole type writing type session to get everybody's input. Because again, I mean, if you got all those different perspectives, you're gonna come out with gold. Rather, if it's just my one brain coming up with a concept.
Totally, yeah. I love collaborating. That's one of my great joys of working with other people on stuff. So now let me even find out it a little bit more. What do you like about this place? What would you, if you off the top right now, what would you think? Oh, this is what I want to say about it. Anything at all? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'll admittedly, I'm one of those that used to complain about this place for a long time, and I've actually moved twice. I actually moved to Southern California for a year. I was 20 at the time. And then in about 2007, I moved to Vegas for a year and tried to live there. And both times I came back. And
are you from here originally?
I'm not from here. I was actually born in Omaha, Nebraska, but I've been here since I was 5 years old.
Okay.
So I'm a native, technically.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so, but now at the age of 40, man, I really appreciate Oregon, and I don't want to say Oregon. I appreciate Portland. I've traveled all over Oregon though, and performing wise, outside of the parameter of Portland, kind of the more outside of that area you get, kind of the more unwelcomed I feel. And even in those, those spaces where I'm invited to come and sing and perform, usually until after I sing is when I get kind of the embrace. But before, when people are trying to figure out who I am and what I'm doing there.
So it's like your presence has to be qualified.
I have to, it's like once I perform, then it's like, oh, wow.
Incredible. Lovely.
Yeah. But before then it's like, what are you doing here? Who are you? That whole.
So how do we reconcile that in a state song? Because that's not uncommon. It's not like it's Alonzo. It's I think a
Yeah,
lot of Black people are feeling that. You know,
yeah. I don't really know. I mean, I will say that in Portland in particular, what I do appreciate is I appreciate the diversity. I appreciate that there's such a wide gamut of different cultures, different experiences, different. But again, the more out you get, kind of the more it's
yeah,
different, and so I wouldn't really know how to reconcile that other than to say I love the beauty of Oregon. I love the mountains. I love the greenery. I love
right.
that part because I mean it's beautiful. But as far as it's not always reflected in the people, it's not always reflected in that way.
Right. The people don't always project the beauty that the state itself does. Well, and
Yeah,
it's funny in these conversations too. Like the common denominator, a lot of times seems to just start with the geography or the geology. Really, we all seem to connect to how beautiful the place is, and even the high desert is beautiful in its expanse and the sage. I'm a little bit partial to the trees because I think trees are crazy and
yeah,
amazing, and the ocean, obviously, the Oregon coast is so gorgeous. But that seems to be a lot of these conversations I'm having. We all start to be like, well, let's start with how beautiful the place is, and then go, and then as you start to dip in, things stretch and get a little bit more tense because you're like, there is a lot of cultural difference,
yeah,
expanding on the state. So trying to bring that together in one song is tricky. So then that leads me to a question that Crystal and I had with each other. We had a chat earlier today and was like, wait, how do we assess if we have a Oregon State Song Contest and say we get 100 submissions? How do we decide what is? It's so subjective. So how do you Do you have you ever tried to judge a song contest or anything? Like, how do we even do that?
yeah. I actually have judged a song
Oh,
competition.
cool.
Yeah,
Well, tell us how it works.
yeah. It's very complex. I'll tell you that. There's of course, there's the lyrics, there's the melody, there's the composition, the music. There's different aspects of it that, we kind of use as our gauge to say, hey, this sounds like it's kind of all of the different qualities, and scored it accordingly. But usually it's usually some kind of subject or topic or around a certain
Yeah.
state song that's not I'm not even gonna say that's a little, that's a lot different.
Hmm.
And then again when you hear that song, it's supposed to be representative of that state, and so that would be tricky, especially for someone like me to write, because I'm honest, and so if I'm gonna write a song, I want to be honest about what I feel
Yeah,
about
yeah.
things. And
Well,
so yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, and outside of the beauty of the geography of it, like the gorge and the coast and the
Hmm.
woods and Multnomah Falls and all the different, outside
Gorgeous.
of that, and the beauty of the diversity in certain places,
Right.
I don't know really what more I could really dive into to talk about how beautiful it is.
Right. So then it's like, can we have a state song that has verses in it that are speak truth to power or just truth to truth? Like, can we have verses that are art? Is that, or does that run counter to what an anthem should be? What is a state song? Does it have to be a rallying cry, or can it be a little more introspective? Like, is the population willing to look inward? I don't know if we're ready for that. There's just, a lot of these conversations seem to be coming back to, what if we did have a verse that was like, this is where our dirty laundry is, and you're going to look at it. I mean, it would be brave for the state to say, let's do it. But
Yeah.
it's hard to tell. Okay. Well, then finally, I have one kind of last question about it, which actually ties into that as well. It's like the power of a song. And so I wanted to start. Crystal was like, see if you can get Alonzo to sing. I was like, okay, I will. We've been talking about being inspired and like the power of a song. What can a song do? And why have a state song?
And most people are like, well, community, and it helps build and inspire. So I'm wondering if A, you could maybe illuminate what the power of the song is to you, and then B, if you could maybe share a little bit of a song that inspires you or feels good. Are you willing
Hmm.
to speak on either of those things?
Yeah, I am actually. Can you repeat the first part of what you're?
Yeah. So what's the why do this? What's the power of a song? Why are we even bothering with a new state song? You know?
Well, I would say that it's interesting because I just recently did work with Max Ribner on his first or his album that he's releasing called First Love Language, and it really talks about the power of music and music being kind of your first language of really. I don't think it's first love language, it's first language, but one of the songs that I'm featured that he just released as a single is called "Not Free," and it talks about how can I be free when we're all not free, and so it really. But talking about the power of a song, like for me, I would say that music has the ability to bring everyone together. Like it's like two things that you know for sure that people can do together and do together well, and that is we eat together well, and
For
we
sure.
and we can play music together. I mean, music just it's something about it. It's like the universal love language, right? It's like the ability to really be able to have a conversation. It's the ability to dance. It's the ability to let go. It's the ability to be challenged. Like music has that ability. I think the arts in general do,
Mm,
but I definitely say music just has that ability. And one of my favorite artists is like Stevie Wonder, right? Like if you think about Stevie Wonder's songs, his songs had so much power, but they had so much meaning and depth behind them, and they're still relevant today. Like if you look back on like what he was writing way back then in the 60s and 70s, and like today we're still having these same issues. If you think
yeah.
about, Higher Ground, for example, like, you
Right.
know, just different lyrics. When you think about those lyrics, you think about like, man, but everybody loves those songs, right? So like he just had the ability to talk about real life issues, but everybody loves it. And it's like you're
Yeah.
dancing to stuff, but don't even realize you're dancing to something that's really talking about like, yeah, powers and people are in position and
Right.
but we got to keep on going. It won't be too long until we get to a higher ground. And
Right.
when you think about those kind of things, I think music does have that ability to. And even the conversation I even had with Max recently about the song "Not Free" because it is a controversial song, um, and we were having a discussion just about like, hey, should we do kind of a disclaimer? And I was like, I don't think so because I think music is, I mean, art in general is subjective, right? Like it's
Yeah.
supposed to cause a reaction, which causes a conversation. And like, what do we think they mean about this? Like, what? Let's talk about what that means to you and what does that mean to me, and look
Right.
from different lenses and perspectives. And like, I think that is the beauty of music. It's like it can cause us to have conversations that we otherwise wouldn't have,
For
but
sure.
like we hear this. Let's look into that. What does that mean? Like I love the melody, I love the tune, I love the
Right.
song, but
Right.
it's lyrics, like wow, like
What
let's
is that? Yeah. So you got, and you saying that, and speaking of higher ground, it's like maybe one way to be a little bit more truthful and honest in a state song is if we just give it a funky beat. Like if we can dance to that thing, and if people are shaking to it, they're just like, "Hey, we have a really racist past, but we're getting our shit together." You know, whatever it is, like if people can dance to it, that's interesting to me. How we tie people in, how do we get them? Another uh, person I was speaking with, Kim Stafford, had mentioned the breath and like when you're singing together and you're kind of sharing that, moving air together. And
yeah,
that it's like, oh my God, totally. Like I loved singing in choir when I did in high school. It was super fun. But then also I love singing at the Timbers games, like singing with a crowd and
yeah,
chanting, and that kind of everyone moving the air in the same way is super powerful. So
yeah.
maybe if we can get people to dance and sing at the same time, then we could like speak some truth. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, do you got a song in mind that you could do a bar or two?
Yeah, let me think. What song? Um,
You do a lot of church work, is that right? A lot of gospel stuff?
I do a lot of I do everything, man. I do gospel, blues, funk,
Oh,
jazz,
okay, cool.
soul, Motown. I love old school stuff, man.
Oh, great.
Love that stuff. I think something that's kind of relevant
Great.
that I really appreciate and have grown. I've sung it many years, but I've really grown to appreciate it over the last few years.
Okay.
And that's Sam Cooke's "A Change Is Gonna Come."
Woo! Yeah.
And so I'll sing just kind of the last piece of that if you don't mind.
I love it. I'm psyched.
It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come.
Oh, Alonzo, thank you, man. That control. Come on. Wow.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Ooh, that's so nice. That's perfect. That's perfect. Thanks for talking to me about this, man. This is really cool. I'm glad you
Absolutely.
yeah. When we finally get the song and figure out which one it is, how that all works, we'll have a show and we'd love to hear your version, man. You know,
Absolutely.
we want to do we keep dreaming of this big show somehow. I don't know, the Rose Garden or at the Washington Park Rose Garden or somewhere.
Yeah.
And have all the different versions come up. Everyone's kind of rocking the same melody, but doing, our own interpretations of the melody and cranking.
I love it.
So we'd love to see you there, man. Awesome.
I love it.
Thanks so much, Alonzo. It was great to see you. And I almost called you Alvin Alley because that's still on the brain.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alonzo, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, man.
Totally. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.